right, welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. I saved the day when I walked in today. Anthony was getting scolded by the missus.
It was good timing.
It was. Saved by the bell. You were so happy to see me. You immediately got up and made me...
come on in.
Yeah, and then you made me dinner. Oh, you hungry? Yeah.
Yeah. Every once in a while, timing is a good thing.
And now Margot is getting up and leaving. So there we go.
I thought she was going to sit at the table and keep a close eye on us.
Yes, but she's not. September 27th is our second live show of the month, of the next month. That is at... No, I'm getting this all wrong. September 29th is at Tuttle's. September 14th is at Elsie's.
Why would you go the later date first?
Because I screwed up to begin with, but we're going to keep it. Actually, I'm wrong on that too. Can't be September 14th. September 17th is at Elsie's. September 29th is at Tuttle's.
Yeah, I've got it in my calendar.
Maybe we should start
17th and 29th.
We'll let Davide handle this.
17th and 19th.
17 at Elsie's. There's no way you knew this. Tuttle's is September 29th. I know actually the 17th because somebody at the fair said to me today, I'm going to be on Elsie's on September 17th. And I go, I thought we were at Tuttle's. So anyway, 17th, Elsie's. 29th is at Tuttle's. We got that?
Write it down.
Write it down. Who says it always?
Peter.
Yeah,
write it down after he tells his joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Start laughing before the punchline and say, I just know how it ends.
Yes,
then,
exactly.
Yeah, take
Speaking
that one, write it down.
Our Europe trips, Dawn, one of our lovely people to come on all our trips, she came to the fair today, so that was fun to see her.
And she's coming next summer?
Yeah, always. That'll be a fun trip next summer. Hopefully we'll have something to announce here in the next little bit. But we're thinking of Switzerland,
Como in the south of France.
Nice. Monaco too. So it'll be a crazy, crazy awesome trip. I was just everybody that listened to the last podcast knows is because I had Philip Gustafson and Elliot Friedman on. Just got back from Milan the other day. Went to Detroit for the U.S. Olympic hockey orientation camp. That was awesome. Saw about 44 guys. Sat down with Patrick Kane for a big story that's going to run in The Athletic on Friday. Sat down with Tage Thompson for a story that's going to run next week. Sat down with Mike Sullivan, Billy Guerin, and John Hynes. And today in The Athletic, Anthony had a Q&A with John Hynes. We broached a lot of different subjects, but the most interesting thing to me is 2 weeks ago he went down to South Florida, had dinner at Vladimir Tarasenko's house. His wife Yana put together an entire Russian feast. He had dinner with not only Vladdy and Yana, but their three sons, his oldest son's girlfriend, and then got to spend even extra time with Yana and Vladdy, and then next thing you know, Vladdy and him are talking for a couple hours. And I think it was important for John to, one, make Vladdy feel comfortable, but vice versa. I mean, we know how important this season is for both Vladdy individually, but also the Wild, and for him to produce and get back to maybe closer to what we saw in St. Louis.
Well, we had talked on a couple earlier shows about one of the big strengths that I think John Hynes has as a coach is his ability to read people, to connect with people psychologically, to have a good feel for when guys need a conversation, when guys need some clarification. And I had a chance to talk to him before he went on this trip, and he said when he had reached out to Tarasenko that Vladimir had told him, yeah, I'd love to have you come down, and said no coach has ever come to meet with me before in an off season. So I just think it's those little kind of things where it's the extra step to make sure that a guy understands the importance, the excitement level the organization has, and giving him every possible chance to succeed with the Wild. Mm-hmm. I think it's just another example of how tuned into the roster John really is, and I know he's had conversations with Marco since he signed too. So I just think he's got a real good handle on guys that need something to make sure that they feel as comfortable as possible coming into camp.
Yeah, I was interested in just the fact that, John basically said to him, like, this is what we're going to do to put you in a position to succeed. And one of them is, I think, starting the season with Marco and potentially Matt Boldy on the left wing. And we talked in the story about how, Vlad could play both sides too, but Boldy, we've seen excel at both sides. So he's probably the easiest one to go there. It just feels like Vladdy, where he plays the best is on the right side. But they went over the last 3 years and things that Vladimir thought that were going wrong, that didn't allow him to produce at the level that we saw in St. Louis. And you and I both know, I mean, this isn't a 38-year-old. This is somebody that's 33. I mean, he should not, Father Time catches up to all of us, but it shouldn't be this dramatic of a decrease in production that we've seen the last 3 years for him, going from a perennial 30 guy to a 17 average. Right. And so the hope is you put him with two great players and it's going to bring out the best of them.
And a team that's built, I think, to contend, because like when he was in Ottawa, there were some young players there, but it wasn't a team on the verge of contender status. And I think this is different, where there are some younger guys, younger than him, but not rookies. So I think it's a better fit possibly. And yeah, all of a sudden, if you find yourself on a line with, let's say it's Rossi and Boldy or Eriksson Ek and Boldy, any one of those, you're in a spot now where you have every opportunity to succeed. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see this guy have some kind of a rejuvenated type season. I'm not saying I think he's going to score 40, but I don't think scoring 22, 25 goals is out of the question.
Yeah, and that would be the hope. And so John in the story basically said that, they might start with Zuccarello and Kaprizov together with Eriksson Ek there, but he pointed out that there were a lot of times that we've seen where Rossi played really well in between them. It sounds
and
like
Eriksson Ek and Boldy have played well together.
Yeah. And really, the thing that could change everything is Danilo Yurov. If Danilo comes in and looks like he's ready for a top six role right off the hop, that could change everything. We'll see. But right now, I think he's looking at Foligno, Hartman, and maybe Joe Hansen, maybe a Liam Ogren there, and a fourth line of Nico Sturm with Yakov Trenyan. Or Trenyan could technically play on the third line too, and Liam Ogren there, or Yurov. So we're going to see. I mean, look, there's no doubt that they've got 13 really good forwards. They've got to find a spot for Yurov. He's still, we'll see what he is right at the beginning of camp, if he's able to, show right away that he's ready, or if he's going to need some sort of time to get acclimated to the North American game. He's been here since mid-July. Looked great, as I mentioned, when I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he's kind of the wild card, Anthony.
For sure he is, but also the wild card with maybe the biggest potential upside,
right? Which
is why he's the biggest wild card, because I think a lot of the other guys, you have a pretty good idea of what they might be, what they could be, and with him, he could be your fourth line guy. He could be not even on the roster, or he could be in your top six. So there for sure is more variance with him than any of the other guys. I think it's most likely he ends up starting in a bottom six role on the NHL roster to open the season. But there's a lot to be seen in camp, and this will be one of the most anticipated guys to watch in camp when you really think about it. Like, I don't know who would be more. Maybe Zeev Boyum.
Yeah.
Maybe Liam Ogren, just because you wonder if this is the year he really takes the next step. Something similar to what we saw from Marco Rossi with, last year, when he all of a sudden became a legitimate top six NHL forward. Can Ogren do that same thing? And if a couple of these guys do, all of a sudden you could be talking about a roster that has a lot of flexibility just because of a little bit more depth than what they've had in the last few years.
David Juracek, another person that's going to have a chance to make the team. And as well, we know the backup goalie in Jesper Wallstedt. I haven't talked to you since I sat down with Philip Gustafson in Milan the other day. But I talked to him a lot about his offseason, but also the fact that he's talked to his agent, and if the Wild come talking to him about a potential extension, that he's absolutely open to it. Now the question is price. Like this is kind of a bit of a dilemma, Anthony. Like if you're the Wild, because right now the prices of starting goalies are 5.5 to 6.5. So if you get ahead of this, which you might want to, and give him that type of commitment, then what happens if Jesper Wallstedt is the real deal right away this season, and now you've just signed him? So it's just going to be interesting how they navigate.
Well, that and we've talked a lot about how great a season Philip Gustafson had last year, not just in his numbers, but just in his presence, in his ability to handle the pressure mentally and physically of the number one guy. But it's only a year.
Right.
It isn't like this guy's done it for 4 years. What if there's a regression? I don't expect that there will be, but there could be. And so I think there's a lot of variables out there with Philip. But I also think the likelihood of him being what everybody kind of thinks he is right now is high. And that, this is a guy who looks like he's a upper half of the NHL number one goaltender to me. And so if you have a chance to sign him at a price that will be team friendly a couple of years down the road, I'd say take a shot.
Yeah, he's only 27 years old. And then, of course, if you do that, then that now means that you're not exactly committing to Wallstedt. So we'll see the way that Wallstedt plays as well. Talked to John Hynes also about Jonas Brodin. He really is only missing him, expecting him to miss a little time to start the year. So that's good. I mean, that's been a consistent thing from the Wild, from Billy Guerin on down. I chatted a little bit with Billy about Kirill Kaprizov. Nothing that really needed to be a story because we've written the same thing over and over again. But the goal is when Kirill gets back into town at some point after Labor Day, significantly after Labor Day, I think he's coming. It was when I talked to Billy about 10 days from then. I think that he'd like to sit down with them. I believe they've offered him a ton of money, Anthony, even more than I thought. I think that on an 8-year deal, they're willing to pay him even in the 16 range. We'll see. But as of now, it hasn't been done. Billy still is voicing optimism and confidence that it will get done. But the longer this goes, the bigger concern there is, because, you don't sign a contract like this. You have to start to question if he really wants to be here. The Wild believe he wants to be here, but the next month will be really telling, in my opinion, with Kirill.
Well, for sure it will be. And I think if you're the Wild, I don't know how long you keep that offer on the table. I think it's if your numbers are right, if he's being offered 8 times 16 and he doesn't jump at it or sign it before training camp starts, I think you're in a spot where, all right, well, this answers our question. Yeah. If you're not willing to commit to us right now at this number, a number that will exceed what your total package can be from anybody else. Because like we talked a couple of weeks ago, if you start to do the math and say, all right, let's say the Wild have offered him 8 times 16, it's $128 million. Well, over a 6-year contract with somebody else, which will be the limit if he decided to become a free agent, now you're talking about $21 million a year from somebody else. The only thing I will tell you is that the league did the Players Association confirmed in Milan that the rules won't go into effect till next September. So the Wild lose a little bit of leverage there. He will be able to sign a 7-year deal somewhere else. So let's even say it's 7. It's still got to be at 19
right,
to match 8 times 16 right now. And that's a lot to assume that that's going to be out there.
Yeah, especially if you have another year where you get hurt and all that. I don't know how you don't take this deal. But, maybe Kirill comes here and says to Billy, I want to sign a 5-year deal. And to me, whatever Kirill wants, he gets. Bonuses, whatever he wants.
In terms of term.
Right, exactly. And
I think that's true as long as it's got to be at least 5 years. If he came and said, I only want to sign a 3-year deal, there's no way the Wild can give him that kind of money and say, okay, we'll just go 3 years and then be sitting in the same spot.
Right.
But if he came and said, I really only want 5 years because I want to know 5 years down the road that I've got a chance to go somewhere else if I think it's a better fit, I don't know. I think if I was the Wild, it's not like you'd walk away from that deal. But I always hate talking about these negotiations because you never have any idea what's really happening when you're not involved in those discussions. And I know even when you do your reporting and diligent reporting, you're not hearing exactly what both sides are saying.
Right.
And both sides are probably telling you a little bit about what they want the message to be, as opposed to you don't know what's actually happening there, and you don't know what other teams might be, even though I know technically they're not. Those guys know. They know what other teams would hint that, hey, if he was a free agent, we'd be thinking this kind of stuff.
Well, that would be my biggest concern with Kirill is like, look, even though that we know quote unquote tampering doesn't exist, it does. And the longer this goes, it's just, you're just giving their side more intel on them figuring out who might come after him and all that type of stuff. You're allowing them to maybe, float some things. So I just think the longer this goes, the more concerning it gets. But again, we're just going to trust the fact that nothing's changed here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Everything I've been hearing from sources is that at some point when Kirill gets back here, that there's going to be a conversation, and he isn't back here. So
that would be the point where concern would rise.
Yeah,
if he comes back and he's been back for a week or 2 weeks and nothing has budged, then I think, as a Wild fan, there would be time to start to wonder, like, now what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But let's just say, if you go down this road, let's just say that the Wild offer what you've said that you think they've offered, and Kirill drags his feet. What would you do if you're the Wild?
I think you ask him for some teams that he'd be interested in going.
You almost have to, don't you?
Absolutely.
Because you can't get to past this year's trade deadline and say, we're just going to let one of the greatest players, the greatest assets that this franchise has ever had, walk away for nothing. There's no way you could let that happen.
Well, I mean, you almost need to do it immediately and started the process immediately. I mean, after what happened to Gabbert, getting hurt 5 games since the 2008-09 season. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back here on Worst Seats in the House. Hey, it's Russo, and I'm here to let you know about Aquarius Home Services and how they make all your home services easy. They're your one-stop shop for heating, cooling, electrical, plumbing, absolutely everything. It's been a warm summer, and your AC's been through the hockey off-season boot camp, and after all that heavy lifting, it might be one heat wave away from a meltdown. The good news? Save $98 on any AC or furnace repair with Aquarius Home Services. They'll get your system back on track fast so you can keep cool and carry on with lake days and grilling and keep your home cool and comfy for as long as summer goes on. Unfortunately, winter's right around the corner, but they'll also give your furnace a look-see to make sure everything's running properly. But if your system's past its prime, well, it's the perfect time to upgrade with their State Fair special. Get a new whole home heating and cooling system with 36 months, 0% financing. And don't forget about their best-in-class 15-year warranty. That's year-round comfort and a system that won't sweat under the pressure. Learn more and schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com. That's AquariusHomeservices.com. Financing based on credit approval. Aquarius, local, trusted, family-owned, and earning the right to be recommended. And don't forget to mention that Russo sent you.
Choosing the right banking partner for your business is an important decision. Royal Credit Union supports your business needs now and into the future with flexible checking account options and digital tools to help streamline your business operations. Royal also helps take your business further with treasury management services, including ACH, sweeps, and positive pay. Choose Royal Credit Union for business checking. Get started at rcu.org/Royal Choice. Insured by NCUA.
Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
Back here, Worst Seats in the House, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. September 17th is our next live show at Elsie. September 29th at Tuttle's. I finally figured it out. Have we retired Vinny's thoughts, by the way?
No, we haven't. Well, I'll reach out to him. We'll get it by the third segment.
Yeah. All right. Because, we could, during the summertime, we could use some thoughts. I'm just saying. Trying to think what else. I saw Faber and Boldy over the last couple of days as well in Plymouth. This golf course, this resort that the USA had its Olympic orientation camp at, Anthony. It just got done with the Live Golf Championship that was there, so they were breaking it down while we were.
I refuse to watch the Live, so it doesn't. It's
it was just crazy, like what goes into like a tournament.
Like to go. I went out and played the TPC. I played it just before the tournament the last 2 years. This year I played it just after, maybe 2 weeks after, and they're still dismantling all of it. And it's crazy to me how different the course looks. And I had been out there for a pre-tournament promotional thing this year, and when you see it with all the grandstands and everything, and then all of a sudden there were a couple holes where the grandstands were gone. I was looking around, this doesn't even look like the same hole when there's not
right.
the grandstand behind it. But it is amazing, and it's amazing how fast they get all of it dismantled and moved back to whatever the course normally looks like. It's the crews that the hours and the effort and the detail that goes into getting a course like that ready is amazing.
Didn't you have to jump in the lake for that thing?
I did have to jump in the lake. Yeah.
Were you worried about like snakes and?
No, there were some big fish that jumped in the lake just before I did. And all of a sudden, I didn't even know there were fish in the pond there on 18. And as we were standing there, I saw one jump, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, these are heavily stocked lakes. Apparently, some of the best fishing in the Twin Cities would be on these lakes, but not very many people can fish it." I can't remember all the details, but I wasn't worried about that. I was just worried about I went to hit golf balls
gators.
Like 10 hours after we had gotten back from Spain. Mm-hmm. Hadn't swung a club in like 2 weeks, and they say, "Okay, here, first swing is going to be to hit it over the water on 18 into the green." And as we went up distance to distance, I think I missed from 180 yards and had to jump in the lake.
You think they do that same promotion down in South Florida?
I wouldn't do it in South Florida. I can tell you that.
I mean, can you imagine what would be in those lakes between gators and anacondas? I mean, they got the craziest snakes down there.
I've only played golf down there maybe twice, once that I can remember for sure. And we saw an alligator like running across the rough area in between the fairway and a pond, and that was as close as I needed to get. It was, I mean, it wasn't like we were running from it wasn't like he was about to attack us. But when I saw how big he was, like, holy cow! Like, I don't even want to go stand next to a pond if my ball's over there.
Yeah. So the U.S. Olympic thing, it was awesome. I mean, 44 guys there. Obviously, many know that there were severe long shots to make the team. But I did a big story with Patrick Kane on two things. One is he feels like obviously this is his last shot to be in the Olympics. But two, he's 32 points from passing Mike Modano as the all-time leading scorer U.S.-born player. And I called Modano up for the story, and he joked. He goes, "I thought he was retiring," like wishful thinking. But we both have covered Kane since day one, right? I mean, his NHL debut was at XL Energy Center against the Minnesota Wild in that famous game where the Wild, I think they won 1-0, but Jacques Lemaire said that Dr. Samuelson had just done his eyes like the day before, and he said that he saw too much to show that to indicate that he was not exactly happy with what he saw from the Wild, and he wanted his LASIK eye reversed. But we've seen Kane win 3 cups. We've seen him win a Calder. We've seen him win a Conn Smythe, a Hart, an Art Ross, a Ted Lindsay, Olympic silver. I mean,
and he can still score.
Yes.
But would you put him on the team?
Probably not. Just when look at the snubs last year. It wasn't just Kane. It was J-Rob. It was Tage Thompson. It was Clayton Keller. It was Cole Caulfield. It was Matty Nyes. It was, it wasn't just.
There's a lot of guys I would pick on that list before I would take Patrick Kane at this point in his career.
But overall, if you had to talk about his legacy and what he's meant to USA Hockey, to the National Hockey League, the type of career he's had since 2007, how would you describe him as a player? Well, we've seen the best out of him.
We have, and one of the best.
Yeah.
One of the best to ever play. One of the best American-born scorers ever to play in the NHL.
One reason why the Wild couldn't get, quote, over the hump was because of those teams.
And he was the guy, I've mentioned it a few times on our broadcasts over the years, that for years it felt like he was the one guy that he could be invisible for 2.5 periods and all of a sudden score twice in the last 5 minutes. He was that guy that just didn't need 10 scoring chances to score once. Like a Zach Parise, totally different scorer. Parise was the guy who needed 8 shots on goal every night to get one. Kane could score twice on 2 shots.
Right.
He could score twice on 2 attempts. And it's the player that the Wild never had until now, where Kirill Kaprizov's that type of guy, where he can have been shut down most of the night, and all of a sudden on one shift, he can make a game change because of his ability to create something out of nothing. And that was Kane to me. He was the guy that no matter how effectively he had shut him down, how invisible he had been, if the puck landed on his stick, he had a chance every single time.
Yeah, and now he's going to get to go against Jonathan Toews again this year, and against Winnipeg late December. Joked with me, I don't think he's joking. He said he wants to take the first draw of the game against Toews and try to beat him. Wouldn't shock me if the winger does that. But I will say, like, I talked to Mo Sider and Lucas Raymond about this in Milan, and I'm going to talk to DeBrincat in Vegas in a couple of weeks about Kane. But everybody says that he is just the greatest dude, and even talking to him, like, he didn't want to be a charity there. He doesn't want to be the guy that's just there to bring influence and to, like, oh, there's, how cool is it that Patrick Kane's in the room with all these young guys? He also looks at them with incredible reverence and tries to steal is obviously the wrong verb, but, tries to take tips from them and how they do things and how they train and little, he even says in the story, like, I'm not going to play like Brady Tkachuk, but I could still ask him questions about, little tips that he does that could give me in front of the net and things like that. So first time I sat down with him, we were talking about it was at the Marriott in Anaheim in 2007 when he was out there for the Stanley Cup final. And then obviously I talked to him again during that preseason for another sit down when I was with the Star Tribune because he was making his NHL debut in Minnesota. And here we are 18 years later, and it's just, he's still at a high level, right? I mean, he finished the season with 45 points in 43 games.
Yeah, I think it's the interesting thing to me would be, because they do have a little bit more roster flexibility here than they did in the Four Nations, that it would be an interesting discussion to have with the guys building the roster to say, is he worth having as an extra guy? Let's just say he got into a tournament, which it's a deeper tournament now. There's more games than the Four Nations. You knew you were playing such a small number of games, and that's why the rosters were small. But what if you got into a spot, say, 3 games into the tournament and felt like your power play needed a spark?
Absolutely.
Or something like that. Would he bring enough to the table to say, we're confident we have other guys that if we needed something else, we've got that guy as an extra, but one guy that could really we might never use him, or we might throw him in there in a couple games because we felt like this was an area of need, that he'd be intriguing for that.
Yeah.
But to me, that he isn't one of the best 12 American-born forwards at this stage in his career.
Yeah. And to his credit, I mean, he doesn't want to be there to just be there. Like, he doesn't want to be there for his resume and what he accomplished in yesteryear. He wants to be there for what he does this season. And he said, look, I didn't give them a choice last year to put me on the team because he felt like he didn't get off to a good enough start. Remember, he was coming off, the hip resurfacing, and he just didn't train, couldn't train the way that he wanted to. And now, if he gets off to a really, really good start, it just puts them in a position to really consider what you just said. Because he is somebody, as we saw with the Detroit power play last year, it's the only thing that was good about them. He is still elite in that area. So I also talked to Tage Thompson, and he's somebody that I would say was a Four Nation snub that is now probably a shoo-in, based on the fact that I think that they realize that he can add dimensions in many different ways, not just power play, but PK, winning draws, his giant size. And obviously, first time in 93 years, the United States won the World Championship, and he scored the golden goal. That means something.
Yeah, I think, to me, he's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
He should be, I think.
I think he should have been a no-brainer last time.
It depends on how the season starts. I mean, there's a chance that you could have some guys that outperform him. But, last year I thought it was different. You were only playing, it was such a short tournament schedule, and I think they went in thinking we need a certain type of player to be able to compete with Canada.
Yep.
And I don't know that the plan was flawed. It just turned out that those guys didn't bring what they thought they were going to be able to bring defensively and shut down kind of players, physical kind of players. It just didn't work out. Now, this is a totally different kind of tournament, and you're going to play some games that, frankly, you're going to win
right
in the Olympic round robin portion. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. By the way, there were 3 different times. So a lot of these guys were just hanging out essentially around me as they were waiting to go station to station to take everything from their credential pictures to their what would be in a program mugshot to different things with different rights holders and things like that. So they were just sitting around me. So there were like 3 or 4 times that I yelled down the hallway to ask Brock Faber a question, and Brock Nelson was on a chair next to him, and every single time I'm like, Brock Nelson would answer, and finally Brock said to me, he goes, "This is why I didn't sign in Minnesota. There would have been too many Brocks. It would have been just way too confusing." So that was very funny. But just it was a fun thing to be at because it was so laid back, just shooting the breeze with guys like Tuck and Larkin and Austin Matthews and Jake Gensel and these guys. It's such a laid back atmosphere this type of year. They were all going golfing. It was just a fun thing to cover after Milan too. Or essentially, as you know, basically flew right from there to there. Anything else you want to talk about, or we can get to Twitter questions?
Well, we have Vinny's thought.
Okay, let's go with that, and then we got Twitter questions.
I don't know if you're going to like it, but it's a good thought.
I'd be the judge of that.
All right. So you're open to it, to at least consider what he says.
Maybe.
He says, and I texted him and just said, "Hey, you haven't sent us your thought yet. We're in the middle of the show. I need it ASAP." He said, "Is Russo going to take accountability and admit he was wrong for stating," and I quote, "Anthony, trust me, Marco Rossi will not be on the Wild next year. Believe me."
Is that exactly what I can't imagine?
That's exactly what he wrote.
I can't be. Well, first of all, I mean, it's not accountability. I mean, it's they tried to trade him. They didn't get any good offers. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you were right. But they tried all summer to move him.
Yeah. Well, if you remember, that was part of the reason why I said I didn't think it was a done deal, because I said somebody's going to have to.
One thing with the offer sheets, I will tell you, is that just the fact that he didn't get an offer sheet means nothing. The first round pick is unprotected, and if you trade a first round pick for Marco Rossi in an offer sheet because they don't match, you have the possibility of losing Gavin McKenna.
Right, and so those were all the reasons why I wasn't discounting your reporting ever. I mean, I trusted that you always were right to say like they were trying to move him, they were looking to move him, but to me there were 3 reasons why. One was you had to find somebody willing to give you what you think he's worth. Mm-hmm. 2 was that I thought there were just a limited number of teams for whom he'd be the perfect fit. Mm-hmm. And then 3, that was the offer sheet piece, where I thought for somebody to give him an offer sheet that exceeded what the Wild were likely willing to pay or match would have meant giving up picks that I can't imagine teams would have traded to get him.
And then Bill Guerin would also beat you up in the future.
So those were the reasons why I just felt all along like it was unlikely that they were going to find the right partner to make a deal. I mean, you can want to trade a guy, but if they weren't forced to trade him. It wasn't like they had to get rid of him because they didn't have room for him, where they just had to take the best offer. They had to get a legit offer, and it didn't seem like a no-brainer to me that was going to happen.
Yep, fair enough. There was something else I just wanted to point out to you. It was on that.
Vinny will be happy that you answered his thought.
Yeah, I'm glad I brought it up. That I was so excited. I should have just kept my mouth shut that we actually did retire Vinny's thoughts. Let's do this. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back on Worst Seats in the House.
And I want to tell you about Twill in the Edina Galleria. Scott Dayton's Twill in the Edina Galleria. TwillMN.com is the website. I'm wearing my Johnny O hat. I'm wearing one of my many Peter Millar shirts. Johnny O and Peter Millar are 2 of my favorite brands out of Twill in the Edina Galleria. When I've been going to Wolves games lately, I've been wearing my Dingman shoes. I've been wearing my Brax pants, my either Peter Millar or Johnny O shirts, pullovers. The Wolves games are weird because they're really cold, and then they turn on the fire jets before the game and singe your eyebrows. You need to be prepared for all kinds of different temperatures in that building. And I just use all my Twill stuff. And as we do more shows here at TalkNorth.com on video, I'll be wearing more Twill stuff because it's really simple. I don't always try to look good. Sometimes I'm very happy being a slob, and I wear old sweats and T-shirts. If I'm trying to look presentable in any way, Talk North meetings, sponsor meetings, big games, going out in public, going out to dinner, I just put on something I bought at Twill. It's just that simple. If I put on something I bought at Twill, I'm going to look good. I'm playing a Randy Shaver's golf tournament on Monday. I'm going to wear Twill stuff to that too. Golf, walk around town, dinner, whatever. TwillMN.com. Go to Twill in the Edina Galleria. They're laid back. They love talking sports. They're nice people.
Tell them we sent you. You'll have a good time, and you'll end up walking out with something great.
If you're looking for a refreshing THC drink, well, check out Giggly. It tastes like your favorite cocktail with no aftertaste and just pure, bold flavor. It's made with real fruit juice and all natural ingredients. It's a Minnesota-made gem. You can find it at liquor stores and Quick Trip locations across Minnesota, or get it shipped nationwide. Plus, with a new low pricing and low-calorie options, it's the perfect guilt-free sip. Try Giggly today. Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a clamshell beach resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. Back here, Worst Seats in the House, Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. I know what it was. I ran into Sully's nephew at the, he came to watch me at the Fan today at the State Fair. Spent all day at the State Fair, Anthony. That was fun.
Sounded fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so Sully's, your buddy Sully, not Mike Sullivan, your buddy Sully's nephew.
Who's also Mike Sullivan.
Yes, that's actually funny.
Yep.
The other Mike Sullivan, the way cooler Mike Sullivan, the Mike Sullivan that looks like he's about 30, but he's really not 30. So this kid Will asked if you think there's any game in the Midway that I could beat you at. I think his question was skee ball.
No.
I think I could beat you in skee ball.
No,
I used to be a really good skee ball player.
It's been a couple of years since I've walked down the Midway, so I don't know for sure what games are there.
The Midway. But I know this will not shock you, but do you think I've ever walked down the Midway?
No, and that's exactly why I think there's probably not a game that that you'd be. I was having flashbacks to the early years of traveling with the Wild. And I had some buddies just ask me this tonight in the parking lot after a round of golf, and they were talking to me about the upcoming Wild season, and they were asking about how different life is on the road because, we had talked a lot that it used to be you, Mike Greenlay, Chad Graff, and I, that every city, every trip, we just knew the four of us were going to go have dinner. Then we were going to end up at some bar to either, listen to music or
play
shoot
darts,
pool, throw darts, whatever, and played shuffleboard. Some of the stories that still make me laugh as much as any that we've ever had on the road had to do with us playing bar games against each other. And there were a few times I'm sure you won. I can't really remember one that you won, but I'm sure it happened. I remember you getting yelled at by Mike Greenlay a lot.
If I did win, it would probably be as your teammate.
Well, yeah, we won together.
Yeah, we definitely won a darts game in St. Louis. That was when was it St. Louis or Columbus when I was dubbed the accidental dartist?
It was in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And that's when we were going back and forth with who was Mike Greenlay's partner.
Yeah.
And when you threw, and he called you the accidental dartist, and I said, he didn't really like my correction when I said, well, actually, it's not accidental. He was aiming at that all three times. It was just that he missed the machine with the first two. And he didn't like that, so his blood was boiling, and that he ended up firing his darts at Chad that night.
Yeah, thank God they're the plastic tips. Yeah, we got lucky there. There was one classic blow-up in Boston.
Yeah, that was a
you
good
and
one.
him.
Yeah.
There was the Dallas hand shuffleboard where he almost sent me to the hospital.
Yeah, where he screamed something vulgar at the top of his lungs.
And the entire
and
bar,
it was like those old E.F. Hutton commercials. We were in a loud bar, and just at the moment that he decided to scream at you across this shuffleboard table was the moment it was in between songs.
Yeah.
And he screamed something I can't repeat on the show, and everybody's head in the bar snapped around like, what is going on at the shuffleboard table?
Yes, and he just missed me with one of those like metal, those like rocks.
Shuffleboard stones.
Yeah, that if it hit me, let's put it this way, I was like, check, I'm out of here.
That would have perhaps been a legitimate time to go to the hospital.
He would have absolutely shattered my hand. I mean,
he did chuck it down there with pretty good velocity.
Yes.
And your hand was just hanging over the side of the table. If it would have hit it, it would have been an injury.
It definitely would have broken my spacebar thumb. All right, let's go through some more Twitter questions, then we'll wrap up the show. Hideki goes, I assumed you talked to other people besides Wild players, Elliot Friedman and Aaron Sickman while you were at Milan. Who were some of the interesting people you interviewed or chatted with in Milan? Lots of people. I'm just trying to think. So I sat down with JJ Peterka. Nobody at the Athletics actually ever really chatted with him about everything in Buffalo. The one thing that was very clear to me is that he was told not to bash Buffalo and not to really give great detail on why he wanted out of Buffalo. So when I write the story, it's going to be a lot of looking really forward to Utah. UPL and Kulich were hilarious. Kulich overslept and made about 6 guys late to the event, so everybody's schedule got shuffled. Alex Wenberg, what a great dude! He plays for Seattle now, right? San Jose now. Came dressed to the nines because he was in Milan, and I always like talking to him. I don't know if you've ever had a chance, but
not that I can remember.
Yeah, he's so insightful. Every time I talked to Forsberg, it was great. I'll be doing a story on the Dallas Stars and sort of the upheaval there that happened after the playoffs. Talked to Rupe Hintz and Heiskanen about that. Talked to Michael Backlund. I had a story that kind of went viral yesterday where Backlund said to me on the record, it's obvious Rasmus Sanderson is getting traded.
I saw that headline.
Yeah.
I didn't read the story, but I saw the headline about that reading between the lines that it meant he was gone, which seemed a little strange, but
yeah. And I love Backlund though; he's such a great dude. Raymond Insider was great. Rasmus Sandin is always the best. In fact, he was so good. I'm going to be doing a separate on Ovi in a couple weeks when I get Ovi in not even a couple weeks next week in Vegas. But he told the story to me that the night that he broke his leg on that hit by Jack McBannon in Utah, that he finds out he broke his fibula. They think the chase is over, all this stuff, and Ovi tells him at dinner, he goes, "I'll be back in 2 weeks." And 2 weeks later, he was twirling on the ice and all that stuff. So Lundell and Mikkola will be doing a big story in the Panthers. Aho's always great. The guy I really met that I enjoyed that I never, first of all, Nico Hischier is still always my favorite player. And he's such a pro. He always knows your name and all that stuff. But the guy that I met that I knew nothing about was Simon Holmstrom. Islander guy, scored 20 goals last year, was, basically his second full season last year. Just a really impressive stature, just the way that he talked. And then it's just coincidence that Matthew Darsh, the new GM of the Islanders, happened to be staying at the same hotel in Weston, ending a family vacation. Didn't know there was an NHL media tour there, so he texts his PR guy Kimber like, "Hey, do we have any representatives here?" And he's told Simon Holmstrom's here. So right after I got done with him, Simon for the first time met the new GM in the lobby, and they met in the lobby. So that was pretty sweet.
That seems like something a GM should have known.
Well, yeah. Well, it's just like he had no idea that it would be at the hotel that he was at, and he didn't know that. So he had been in Italy for a couple of weeks. Let's see. What do you think of Gus Bus? This is from SD Backy or Bach. What do you think a Gus Bus extension would look like? What do you think they'd have? they could stomach.
Boy, I don't know. I don't really even have I haven't looked at all at any comparables to
Dostal just
goaltenders.
signed for what, 6.5?
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd want to go that high, but
Yeah.
but I think I would be trying to get Gus to accept maybe term over AAV to get the contract up to the total value.
5s would be great, I think, like in the 5 millions. Yeah,
probably. And if you had to go an extra year to get him to agree to that, I'd maybe consider that. I don't really know. It's a hard question to ask.
Kay Brandner asks, what 3 things must be true about the Wild for them to be a top cup contender, Anthony? One's clear health.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a problem the last couple of years. Health is number one. I do think their roster is better built to deal with injuries this year than it was last, for obvious reasons. And even just having some flexibility to make a trade if they have to or want to, that they couldn't do last year. So I think that's number one. I think the Gustafsson has to be what we saw last year, and the special teams. The special teams have to be better, particularly the penalty kill. But the power play, I think it's hard to say the power play wasn't good enough last year because it was really good before the injuries hit. And when you play half a season without Kirill Kaprizov, your power play isn't going to look the same. So, but the penalty kill has to be serviceable. It can't be. You can't contend with a penalty kill that's in the bottom 2 or 3 in the league like it was for most of last season. Yeah. If they can be a middle of the pack penalty kill or better, somewhere kill 80%, 82%, then you got a team that I think can contend, they can contend with this roster.
I know he's always in shape, but Boldy the other day looked to me like he is ready to go. He just, in the way that he played in the playoffs, if he can, could take that next step even and become sort of the Robin
I think there's a lot of guys that at different points last year, Boldy for sure stepped up in the playoffs at a level that we hadn't seen before. And I think, let's go back to Marco Rossi and forget about what happened in the last 5 games of a playoff series, but look at the fact that this guy went from 40 points to 60 from year to year. Well, what's the next step for him?
Right.
What if he goes to 70? And I don't think that would be some kind of an unheard of occurrence for him. I think it's realistic to expect that he's going to get even better. So if Boldy continues on the trajectory that he is, and Kaprizov stays healthy, and Rossi continues to improve, I don't think any of those. It isn't like you're saying, hey, what if Vladimir Tarasenko scores 40? I mean, these aren't outlandish type hopes or predictions. So I think with those guys, it's a reasonable expectation to think that this year could be better than last.
So JoJo on a checking line, both your thoughts on that comment from the coach?
I don't know if I'd call it a checking line. It'd just be a fourth line, maybe third. And there are different ways to use your fourth line. It doesn't have to be a big bruising line. It can be a line that gives you a few minutes a night, but creates something with speed. And if your fourth line has Nico Sturm and Yakov Trenyan on it, I don't think there's any reason to look at it and say there's no way Marcus Johansson fits there. But, what if he's on a third line with Foligno and Hartman? Now you have a line that, you could use in different ways. You could use a line that might be able to deliver a little scoring punch. And, I somehow, some way, Marcus Johansson is going to end up the season with 30 points, 34 points. He does it. He always does. Somehow he will.
Paul Meyer, our buddy, asked, did you finally try a Pronto Pup at the fair today? No, and I would never. Why on earth would I try a Pronto Pup? Like, there's
on
nothing.
Your way to the midway to try to find a game you can win.
There's nothing about that even sounds appetizing.
No, the only thing that ever has.
It's a corn dog, right?
It's a corn dog. Yeah. The only thing that I think the smell of them is the fair.
Yeah.
I've always just, that smell of those stands reminds me of the fair.
I did have the turkey
time.
Sandwich, and I don't think they're as good as they used to be. They're certainly not as juicy as they used to be.
I've never had a turkey sandwich.
Oh, they're so good.
There.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, like the turkey on the go stand? Like
no, because I don't like turkey, so I would have walked right past
turkey.
it.
I forgot that. Logan Nation asks, are there any road trip cities, I like this question, that you get to and you think to yourself, I'd rather just stay in the hotel room tonight?
Yes.
Is it the same one I'm thinking in the Northeast?
Well, there's Ottawa.
Oh, okay. I
Ottawa's
wasn't thinking
one.
that. Yeah.
But Edmonton has always been one.
Yeah.
And
see, I like Edmonton.
I've
spent so much time in Edmonton, though.
It's a little bit better now that the hotel connected to the arena and everything, and that district has grown a little bit. But there were a lot of years where I would have been content just to. We used to play poker in Edmonton all the time because there was nothing to do outside of the hotel.
Yeah, that's the great story.
And we used to also have we'd go curling there just because there was nothing to do. But now there are a few more restaurants there. Ottawa's one that there's really
part of it's your
nothing
hotel.
To do. We're
like
in the middle of nowhere.
If you stayed in downtown Ottawa, there's a good amount to do. I like Ottawa.
What was the one in the Northeast you were thinking of?
Buffalo. I mean, I'd rather not go out.
Oh, I don't mind. There's a couple spots in Buffalo.
Yeah, I met you out in an area that I'd never been to once about 10 years ago, I think. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I'd never been out there. I have to go to Buffalo twice this season, once with the Wild, and the other thing is I'm leaving the Wild beat. Well, not leaving. Joe Smith's covering the road trip. But when you guys are in, I think, Long Island and Raleigh in November, I think it is, I'm actually going on the rivalry series game between Canada and U.S. Women's to Cleveland and Buffalo. How about that?
Two great series. Go to the XO Steakhouse in Cleveland. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to need something to do, so I'll do that. I definitely want to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I've only been there once, and not since my buddy's wedding in Cleveland.
It's been a while, but I did like that. But I'm assuming it's still there. The XO Steakhouse was.
That's the one, the Roy Smalley story. Right?
It was, yeah, and it was. It's
Are you allowed to tell that on the air? It is funny.
Yeah, I think I can tell it. We had flown in with the Twins after a Sunday game in like Chicago, so we got in Sunday night and had dinner reservations because somebody had recommended the steakhouse, and so there are 4 of us who go there and. The menu looked terrific. We go around the table, and all of a sudden, the waiter talks about this special. I don't recall what the cut of steak was, but Roy says, "I'll take that." So we all eat. Well, the bill comes, and Roy graciously is going to pick up the tab. So he hands the card, and then he picks up the receipt, and he looks, and he calls the waiter over. And he says, "What is this?" And he points to something on the menu, and the guy says, "Well, that was your steak." And Roy just looks and he says, "Well, you might, just for future reference," he said, "that's fine. I'm going to pay for it. But you might mention that price when you talk about the special."
Yeah.
It was like $220 for this steak. And, the rest of our steaks weren't cheap. They were probably $85 or something. But Roy just looks, so it prompted the discussion around the table. Because he said, if the guy comes and says, "Here's the special," if it costs $100, maybe you don't mention the price because it's not that different. But $220,
yeah, that's $30 an ounce.
Right, that is
probably say
you
something.
Probably now he did give us each a bite of the steak, and it was phenomenal. But it prompted
that probably pissed him off the most. Is you didn't even get to eat his entire steak.
And but it prompted the discussion at the table where we just said, "All right, if you knew what the price, like what's the most you'd ever pay? Let's say you knew it was going to be as good as this steak that we just sampled. What would you have been willing to pay? Like if you looked at it on the menu." And to me, not 220. I don't know what your number would be, but I had thrown out at our group. I said $100. If I knew it was going to be the best steak I had ever had, I'd probably be willing to pay $100. But Roy just kind of laughed and he said, if he had said this cut of steak, $225, I would have said, just give me something off the menu.
Yeah.
But luckily he was the one footing the bill, so we didn't have to worry about it.
Poor Roy. All right, a couple more for you, and then we'll wrap this up. Who are let's go heading to LA over New Year's weekend to cheer for the Wild, playing at Honda Center and Crypto Arena. Any travel advice or tips? Go to Newport. Yeah,
get away from both arenas.
Yeah.
Neither one of them. That LA Live area to me does nothing for me. There's nothing there, and the Anaheim Arena is out in the middle of nowhere as well. So, go down to Newport when you're in Anaheim, and go out to Santa Monica when you're in LA.
They're building a whole arena district at Honda Center, but it's not going to be ready.
No, it's like 3 more years, I think, before it's going to be done. And even then, I have my doubts because everything out there.
It's not good when you and I, before every single game, also refuse to eat in the press room, but our consolation is Cheesecake Factory.
Right, it is.
That's where there's
2 cities I go to Cheesecake Factory, and that's one of them. The other one's San Jose.
Yeah.
If we're staying out at that Santana Row place.
And I don't mind Cheesecake Factory, but
right.
I mean, But go to Newport. Great restaurants there. I mean, I know that you're not the biggest fan of it, but I love what's called their winery there. It's a steakhouse. But there's tons of stuff. It's
not bad, but there's some good spots out there. It's just kind of cool.
Santa Monica.
And I'd get away from both arenas and go out. And
we went to a place. You, me, and Margot, I think, once went.
That was in Marina Del Rey.
Okay,
where we went a couple of spots. Yeah, Scopa was one of them. And then
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
And there was another place we went out there that was pretty good. I'd have to try and find the name.
We
went to Santa Monica. That was the night that you got in the car accident.
Yeah,
we went to Santa Monica.
To rehash that. But what was there was a night that we went to Hollywood or something from down. We went to a great restaurant. But that whole area, we're never going to remember it. But I feel Margot was with us, but I don't know. Last question: who are your dark horse teams to make the playoffs in both the East and the West? Then who do they replace? I think Utah is one that I really like in the West. I think they have an opportunity to be much better. I don't think they'll make the playoffs with Anaheim.
Utah would be the one. I'm trying to think of non-playoff teams from last year that could be in this year. Utah, to me, is the one in the West. And the team that I think they could bounce is Winnipeg. I just don't know if Winnipeg matches what they did a year ago. The teams in the Pacific, I think, will get a little bit better. But if Utah makes it, it's going to be the bump. I think Winnipeg might be the odd team out.
Yeah.
East,
even more than the Blues.
Yeah, one of those two.
You're not worried about the Wild at all.
I'm not really not to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I'm really not. I think Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota will make the playoffs out of the Central, and then two of probably Utah, Winnipeg, or St. Louis. I think Edmonton is a lock. Vegas is a lock, and Calgary, I think, looks like a playoff team.
Interesting.
But the East, I'd have to.
I would say LA over Calgary, but how about the East? I mean, Montreal made it last year. Do you think Detroit has enough to get better? They got John Gibson now.
Yeah, I think Detroit. I thought last year Detroit was a team poised to make a run, or not a run, but a run. I do think
Montreal's getting better, and they obviously made it last year.
Yeah, Ottawa to me is not as far from a lock. Will one of the teams that last year was disappointing rebound? I don't see the Rangers necessarily making any kind of major rebound. Pittsburgh, same thing. Philadelphia, maybe a little better, but I don't know. The East to me has maybe 5 really good teams that are no-brainers, and then a whole bunch of teams that I don't know that I don't think it would be a major upset if any of them made it or if any of them missed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Well, thanks for joining us in the Aquarius Home Services studio, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems. Thanks to our sponsors, Aquarius Home Services, Clamshell Beach Resorts, Giggly THC Beverages, Onyx Maps, Twill and the Edina Galleria, and Royal Credit Union. Talk to you next week, everybody. And again, September 17th at Elsie, September 29th at Tuttle's. Thanks, everybody.
So much coming out, there's nothing.